I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. And so for me to do a sci-fi film was going to be kind of nerve-wracking because I'm such a fan of the genre. So if I was going to ever do it, I guess you go with the royalty of sci-fi. Why not go with the Wachowskis? And mind you, I didn't think that I was going to get the job. Like, I just kind of went, read the script, and was like, yeah, I love it. Partially because I was nosy and wanted to know what the script was. And then when I got the job, that was just like icing on the cake. I think she's like the extreme version of reality. I mean, the truth is, when you're in your teens and 20s, you're trying to find your purpose. And you think that you're meaningless. Like, you don't really know the purpose of life or why you're here, and you try to find yourself. And then ultimately you come to your own and figure out what it is about life that you want. In her world is the exaggerated version, where ultimately she doesn't know her purpose, she doesn't know her worth, she kind of feels like she doesn't really know her place on this planet, and then ultimately finds out that her purpose is much greater than her own, and comes to it, and empowerment, and takes it and embraces it. So it's kind of just like the extreme version of, I think, what everybody can relate to. Yeah, it's always fun to play anybody that has a transition. I mean, you know, she meets a very good-looking Channing Tatum with the little pointy ears. Anyways, when she meets Channing's character, I think she's just so enamored by the idea of life and actually feeling alive for the first time in her 20-some-odd years, that she's open-minded and embraces it and kind of goes along for the ride and doesn't really know what to expect, and, you know, goes along for a ride with a very good-looking Channing Tatum, which doesn't hurt. I love Channing. I loved everybody in this film, from Douglas to Eddie to Channing. I think everybody was so wonderful and so great. And they work as one brain. And you'll never see them separate. Like, on a set, if there's multiple units going on, they travel from unit to unit as a whole. They are one cohesive brain, just spliced into two parts. He's great, and I don't know if you've interviewed him, but he's such a sweet, brilliant human being that deserves all the success in the world, and is above and beyond just a good person, which I think is so much more meaningful than just being good at your craft. But he's great at his craft, and he's a good human being, so he's awesome. I love Sean. Sean's fun. He's a very fun actor to work with, and, you know, I was a huge fan of Game of Thrones, so for me, that was just really exciting. This is the second time that's happened. The first time I spoke Russian was in Max Payne. And it's a little, oddly enough, nerve-wracking, because the only time I ever speak in Russian is to my parents or my grandparents. And so all of a sudden, I got to say like a word or two. It's not like I had a whole speech in Russian. But I was like, this is funny, goofy. Like, my parents are going to laugh. And sure enough, they giggled. Yeah, she's very confused in the beginning as to what's happening and doesn't really quite know what to make of it, but never cowers away from situations. And I think that was actually very important to the Wachowskis, to create a female character who wasn't a damsel, who doesn't need to be saved. Yeah, that was much harder than originally anticipated. I've said this, but I've never been in better shape than I was for this movie. Just because you work out in the morning, you work out before work, you work out during work, in order to have to be able to sustain the activity that it requires of being 17 hours on a wire every day. And so it was hard. It was beautiful to look at. It was not great to wear. I think the white dress, the dress was like 30 pounds and the headpiece was 15 pounds, and you wear it for a week and, you know, again, 15 hours a day. It's hard. They are stunning pieces. Amy designed some of the most beautiful wardrobe that I've ever seen. It was great. It was so fun, and the action sequences were amazing. I mean, the great thing is we were able to shoot outside in Chicago, so everything that you see was actually shot in the location. Maybe not in space, and maybe not in a spaceship that was in Chicago, but needless to say, the whole thing, all the wires, all the special effects, I mean, all the stunts I did, an exception to I couldn't hang off of a helicopter. That I could not get. Channing and I both were like, maybe we want to hang off a helicopter. And they were like, maybe not. Other than that, I had an amazing stunt double who worked endless hours to perfect every stunt that by the time I got there, you know, was keen and perfect. But it was fun, very fun. I hope so. Otherwise, this is a very simple purpose. You know, why think so? It'd be very selfish for me to be like, oh, we're the only living species in this mass universe. I think that that would be silly to say. The movie has a lot of heart for an action film. There's like it's funny, it's a love story, there's like a family dynamic. It's a very cool little movie. Not little, by the way, but yes. It's a movie for the masses. It's, you know, it's the Wachowskis' intellect as far as like social dynamics, but mixed in with humor and social like just appreciation and acceptance. Nothing surprised me. I didn't go in thinking that I knew anything about them, and so I kind of just took it one day at a time and try to learn and go with them. They're really brilliant people who have a vision, and you just have to go with the flow and stay with them and keep up. It's a really fun take on a sci-fi film. I think you have to nowadays. I think the audiences are so smart that if you don't slightly make fun of yourself, they're not going to buy it. You have to be able to wink. Star Trek. I've said this so many times, people are going to get sick of it. That I can do stunts, that's what I've taken back. That who knew that I can actually fall from an 80-foot drop and live? It's pretty amazing what your body's capable of doing. Just stamina-wise, of the amount of physical work that this movie entailed, I think surprised me the most.